4 new COVID-19 cases in the community were among the 25 infections confirmed today. The remaining 21 were imported. Now, among them, 15 are Singaporeans or permanent residents. More details will be released tonight. Meanwhile, about 1,500 students, staff and external vendors at Edgefield Secondary School have tested negative for COVID-19. The school, which had shifted to full home-based learning this past week, will resume physical lessons next Monday, May the 10th. In a few hours' time, Singapore will officially return to Phase 2, when social gatherings will once again be limited to 5 people. The move comes ahead of what would have been an extremely busy few days, this being the last weekend before Hari Raya and Mother's Day on Sunday. Joining me now is Professor Teo Yik Ying, Dean of the Swee Hock School of Public Health at the National University of Singapore. Welcome back, Professor. Looking at the numbers over the last few days, community cases have come back down to the single digits after the spike in cases involving the Tan Tock Seng Hospital cluster. Prof, what do you make of this as we go back to Phase 2?
Thank you very much for having me back. So it is a good sign that the numbers, especially those linked to the two largest clusters at TTSH and ICA, appear to be coming under control. There are 4 community cases today, but we will need to see whether any of these cases are linked to the active clusters or unlinked. As always, unlinked community cases are worrying, since it means that something is happening within the community and we don't know where or how these people are being infected. But given that some of these active clusters are driven by highly transmissible coronavirus variants, it is certainly better to play it safe.
Right. Prof, do you see us returning to Phase 2 as a significant setback in Singapore's reopening efforts?
So clearly this isn't something that we hope for, having to move back to Phase 2. And this is actually the worst outbreak we have seen in Singapore since September or August of last year. But we have overall been able to maintain extremely good control over the COVID-19 situation in Singapore, to the point that most of the social and economic activities have been allowed to resume to a large extent. And precisely because this control over the situation is very hard-earned through a lot of sacrifices, sweat and tears from the general public, and also the people directly involved in the COVID situation, we are not taking things for granted. And if we get a sense that the situation doesn't look right, we will tighten up a bit. So presently, the signs appear to suggest that this is a temporary blip, and we need to put in place a move back to Phase 2 to resolutely break all chains of transmission in the community. I think the reality is that we will all have to be mentally prepared that over the next year or even longer, this will be what we in Singapore, as well as many other countries worldwide, will have to do to dial up and dial down our measures, especially border control measures, as we experiment with relaxing more and more of our restrictions.